Hello everyone. Today's lesson is on algebraic fraction. So what are algebraic fractions? Algebraic fractions are fractions whose numerator or denominator are algebraic expressions. So let's have some examples here. You have 2x plus 1 all over 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. If you notice, our numerator is a polynomial. Our denominator is also a polynomial. So if you have a polynomial numerator and denominator, then this type of algebraic fraction is a rational algebraic fraction. And then you have another example here. Square root of x minus 3 all over x squared minus 2. Our numerator, if you have noticed, it is under a root sign, which is just equal to x minus 3 to the 1/2 all over x squared minus 2. Now, we have a fractional exponent, or in other words, under a root sign that makes it an irrational algebraic expression or algebraic fraction. So we have this type of fraction then is irrational algebraic fraction. Now let's try to simplify algebraic fractions. How to simplify algebraic fractions? Since these are fractions, our concept of simplifying normal fraction or ordinary fraction is applied here. Say for example, you have 10 over 25. Is it in its simplest form? Not yet. So we are going to simplify that. How to simplify 10 over 25? We simply factor 10, and that is 2 times 5. And then, of course, we factor 25 as well, and that is 5 times 5. You see there is a common factor, which is 5. So you can cancel that out, and then what is left is 2 over 5. In other words, 10 over 25 is just equal to 2 over 5. And so, how you did that, we will try to apply it in simplifying algebraic fractions, okay? So, let's try this example. You have negative 2x cubed all over 6x cubed z. Now, our numerator, you cannot simplify that, but our denominator, you can still factor 6. So, we will have negative 2x cubed all over 6 can be factored as 2 times 3x cubed z, okay? And then look at the numerator and the denominator if they have common factors there. So we can see that you have 2, cancel out 2, and then of course x cubed and x cubed here. So what is left is you have negative 1 all over 3z. And that is now your answer. So this is now the simplest form of our algebraic fraction. Another example. Say you have xy plus 2x all over 2x squared minus 5x. So examine each term if you can factor out something. So x is common, and then in our denominator, x is also common. So let's try to factor it out. you have x, take out x, and then what is left is y plus 2. And then your the denominator is, you take out x, what is left is 2x minus 5. Then you simplify that. You can cancel out x. By the way, you cannot cancel x and x here in this part. Here, you cannot cancel anything. Why? When the terms are separated by a plus or a minus, you cannot do cancellation. You have to make it a factor before you can cancel. So like here, you can cancel x and x. So what is left is you have y plus 2 all over 2x minus 5. And this is now your answer. Another example. You have x squared minus 5x plus 6 all over x minus 2. Our denominator, we cannot factor it, but our numerator is a trinomial, so we can factor it. Let's factor. So you have here all over x minus 2. What is the factor, or what are the factors of the first term? You have x. And then the sign must be the same because you have positive here. And then since the middle term is negative, so both are negative. And what are the factors of 6 that when you add or when you subtract gives you negative 5? So that must be 3 and 2. So if you notice, we have a common factor in your numerator and the denominator, which is x minus 2. You can cancel that out. What is left is x minus 3. And that is now your answer. Then let's have addition and subtraction of algebraic fraction. The same way you subtract or add fractions. So let's review how to add like fractions and dissimilar fractions, okay? Similar fractions. So let's start with, say, 1/5 plus 2/5, okay? So since they have the same denominator, we will just add the numerator, so that is 3, and then copy the common denominator, which is 5. But what if you have, say, 1/7 plus 2/5, okay? They don't have the same denominator, and 7 and 5 are relatively prime numbers, so there is no common factor except 1. So what you will do is multiply them. So you will have 7 and 5, that gives you 35 when you multiply. So you have 35 there. 35 divided by 7 times 1, that gives you 5. Then 35 divided by 5, 7 times 2, that gives you 14. So your answer then is 19/35. How you add normal fractions, the concept there should be applied in adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. So let's proceed. Example 1. You have 4 over x plus 5 plus 1 all over x minus 3. So if you notice, our denominator, we don't have a common factor there. So what we do is multiply our denominator. So that is just equal to x plus 5 times x minus 3. And then plus you have another one here that is x plus 5 times x minus 3. Okay, so x plus 5 times x minus 3 divided by x plus 5, what is left is x minus 3. So you will have times 4, then that becomes 4 times x minus 3. Okay, and then here, what is left when you divide x plus 5 times x minus 3 divided by x minus 3, that is just x plus 5 times 1, so x plus 5. Then simplify, so you can distribute that. Okay, so you will have 4x minus 12, and then plus x plus 5 all over, okay, you just copy the common denominator, x plus 5 times x minus 3. Okay, so simplify further, you can combine like terms, 4x and x, that gives you 5x, and then negative 12 and 5, that gives you negative 7 all over x plus 5 times x minus 3, and that is now your answer. Another example, you have 4 over x times x plus 3 plus 5 over x plus 3. Now you have a common factor here, which is x plus 3. So we try to get our common factor, and then so that is x plus 3, and then what is left is you have x. So our LCD, or our least common denominator, would be x times x plus 3. Okay, then for the first one here, 4 over x times x plus 3, that is just the same, so you have 4, and then you have x times x plus 3 divided by x plus 3, that gives you x times 5, so that is why you have 5x. Then simplify, you can have, so you have x times x plus 3, add 4 and 5x, so you have 4 plus 5x, or you can rewrite that, they are just the same as 5x plus 4 all over x times x plus 3. These two are just the same, so we can just rewrite it like that. And then another example, you have 3x over 2 minus 3 all over 2x plus 2. Now, your 2x plus 2 here, you can rewrite this as 2 times x plus 1. Okay, so we will rewrite that. You can write that as 3x over 2 minus 3 over 2 times x plus 1. Okay, then we'll try to find the LCD. You have 2 times x plus 1 minus another one here, so you have 2x plus 1. Then 2 times x plus 1 divided by 2, that gives you x plus 1 times 3x, so you will have 3x times x plus 1. And then here you will just copy 3. So simplify further, you will have 2 times x plus 1 as your denominator. Then you distribute that. So you have 3x squared, and then 3x times 1, that gives you plus 3x, and then you have minus 3. So you cannot factor it anymore, so this one will be your answer. Or if you want to take out 3, it's okay, but still they are the same. So that's how to add or subtract algebraic fractions. Now let's have number 4, example 4. So you have here 4 over x squared minus 25 minus 3 over x squared minus 6x plus 5. Now, this one is just a difference of 2 squares, so we can factor that as x minus 5 times x plus 5, right? And then this one here, you can factor that as x, okay, and x. 5, what are the factors of 5 that when you add or subtract gives you 6? Since 5 is positive here and 6 is negative, so both will be negative. And then this will be 5 and this will be 1. So if you are going to rewrite that fractions, so you will have 4 over x minus 5 times x plus 5 minus 3 over x minus 1 times x minus 5. Okay? Now, if you notice, there is a common factor in your in your denominator. So our LCD then becomes, or our least common denominator would be, the common is x minus 5. What is left here is x plus 5, and then you have x minus 1. Okay? Then you have minus, okay, we will not, x minus 5, okay, times x plus 5 times x minus 1. So let's continue. X minus 5 times x plus 5 times x minus 1 divided by x minus 5 times x plus 5. So what is left is x minus 1. So that would be 4 times x minus 1. And here, what is left is you will have x plus 5. So that is 3 times x plus 5. Okay? Then simplify, you will have, okay, we will have our common denominator, which is x minus 5 times x plus 5 times x minus 1. Okay? And then you distribute this, so that is 4x minus 4. Okay? And then you distribute 3, but there is a negative sign there, so you will have negative 3x minus 3x, negative 3 and 5, so that is negative 15. Simplify further, you will have 4x and negative 3x, that is equal to x. And then negative 4 and negative 15, that gives you negative 19. That is all over x minus 5 times x plus 5 times x minus 1. And this is now your final answer. That's all for our discussion. I want you to answer this 5 exercises here. Okay, simplify the following algebraic expressions, and then here you have to add and simplify just the same.